Mark Reason last updated 5 o'clock the 31st of March 2019. Getty Images Raheem Sterling celebrates after scoring his team's 5th goal against Montenegro, whose fans made monkey noises to some England players. AP England manager Gareth Southgate said he would ask his players next time whether they wanted to leave the field in response. Football opinion: sport can heal and unite cultures. Sport can also divide. In Europe and South America and many other parts of the world, the fans of the rival teams don't all stand together singing in perfect harmony. The fans are segregated. Human beings are caged in separate pens. It is considered too dangerous to put them together. The ugly reality is that in this micro-world of football, people have to be kept apart in order to avoid violence and sometimes even loss of life. England played Montenegro last week in a European Championship qualifier, and it painted a pretty vile picture of humanity. At one end of the stadium were the England fans. They were nearly all white. Certainly they were not representative of the England football team, who are a fairly equal mixture of black and white. Some fans stood with their shirts off, pendulous beer bellies going before them like a cultural flag. A few England fans tried to infiltrate the opposition end of the ground. Montenegro police were ready for them. The fans were tested to see if they could speak Montenegrin. Given some of them can scarcely speak English, it is not a surprise to learn that they failed the test. They were excluded, sent back to where they came from. Read more. England win marred by racist chants. Solskjaer confirmed for Man Utd. Kane's kicking career in NFL. Ronaldo injury, apparently minor. This seems sensible. But imagine the outrage that would go on at a country's border if a visitor was denied entry because he or she could not speak English or Spanish or Swahili or Taireo. The difference is one of scale. The reality is that at football matches, the penning and segregation and language tests are seen as acceptable precautions. You can understand why. 39 football fans were crushed to death in 1985 when Liverpool fans surged to get at a section of Juventus supporters who fled in panic. English clubs were given an indefinite ban from European football at the time. The punishment was temporary. So was the solution. That behavior has been repeated since again and again at stadia around the world. In Montenegro last week there was a net over fans to stop them throwing missiles at the opposition players. A lighter still landed at the feet of one England player. And the netting couldn't contain the words and sounds of the Montenegro supporters. Monkey chants were directed at a couple of England's black players, with Danny Rose receiving the majority of the abuse. Add feedback on the pitch. The players from both teams had the word "respect" on the sleeves of their shirts. The players from Montenegro played in leagues in 9 different countries. The England team was multicultural, but both teams kicked each other when it suited, and the fans goaded and taunted the players. Do words like respect have any real meaning in such a context? Gareth Southgate, England's remarkably articulate and compassionate manager, was asked if he considered removing his players when he heard the monkey chants aimed at Rose. Southgate said that he hadn't. He said his priority was to support and protect his players. He said he would consult with the players in future, because the decision should lie with them. Southgate apologized if people thought he should have done more. It is hard to know what more this decent man could do except plead for education, as he has done. Racism and hatred is going on all over Europe. In the past year, Greece, Romania, Poland, Serbia, France, Spain, and Russia have all been fined or been forced to close off parts of their stadia because of racist chants or banners. 4 years ago, a giant swastika was actually mowed onto a pitch in Croatia. Nor will the likes of Raheem Sterling, Danny Rose and Callum Hudson-Odoi be free from racism when they leave the Balkans and get home to England. Fans of English clubs are just as likely to racially abuse them, despite the black players in their own team. And it's not just a black and white issue. Arsenal were accused of anti-Semitism in a match against Tottenham at the end of last year. It's been going on for years. You may wonder what on earth this has got to do with New Zealand. Well, it seems to me to have everything to do with New Zealand, because we can't have our current discussion about multiculturalism in isolation from the rest of the world. Right now we are wondering how we can integrate better as a society. We are wondering if we too will undergo the rise of the far right that has occurred in much of Europe. It's already happening. Some of it is homegrown, some of it is imported. Many people from those European countries who have been sanctioned for racism have settled in Australia and New Zealand. Like the rest of the global population, like all of us, they will carry different degrees of racism. An Australian politician, who had previously staged a fake beheading in protest at the building of a mosque, was given airtime on Sky News last year. An Australian senator said the deaths in New Zealand were the result of Muslim immigration. Most of us find these views repugnant, but herein lies the catch. Being an inclusive society means just that. Everyone is included. If we start banning certain views, then we end up banning people like Jordan Peterson, who argues rationally and from a background of learning. Oh, we banned him already. So how selective is tolerance? Do we just tolerate the views that we agree with? And who is we? And who decides? There is scarcely a country in the world that isn't racist. I don't see a lot of Maori or Pacifica coaches of the All Blacks over the years. The current leadership group is very pale. When Jacinda Ardern came to power, she upped New Zealand's immigration quota to 1,500, a number that comes in next year. That is half the number per capita of population that Australia admits. So are we more racist than the Ockers? Having a quota is racist. You or other. We will only let so many in. It is daft to pretend that we do not discriminate. Our government does so every day. You can come in because you are quite clever, you can't. New Zealand has laws that specifically benefit Maori. I do not say it is a bad thing. Maori and Aborigine did not choose this white capitalist culture that has been imposed on them, and their people have suffered as a result of it. They have become migrants in their own land, at times marginalized on the outskirts of society. You may wonder where any of this is heading, and the answer is that I haven't got a clue. And that's the problem. Multiculturalism and racial integration is not simple. Even a poster country like Sweden has made a complete mess of it. 1900 Sweden had 35,000 immigrants, most of who came from other Nordic countries. Now they take in well over 100,000 every year. The unintended consequence is that inequality has never been so high, and marked inequality had led to civil unrest. I have heard political commentators rail at New Zealand first because of its policy on immigration. But if we are truly inclusive, we should discuss that policy maturely and also acknowledge that every other shade of political party implements watered-down versions of the same policy. Inclusiveness means including all opinions and letting them see daylight, or they will fester. Our world is rife with racism, but we might do well to acknowledge, at least for now, that it is part of the human condition. If a kid moves to New Zealand from Britain or Timbuktu, if there are other kids in his school from the same country, then he or she is likely to migrate towards them. They share an experience. They empathize. There is cultural common interest. It gives them unity, but it also creates a divide with some homegrown kids. Our Prime Minister is presenting a beautiful picture to the world, but it will not solve anything in the long term. Just as scoring a goal might silence the racists and the haters for a moment, but it is just a moment. And it is a problem we will never come to terms with if we put fences around our discussion as well as around our fans. I am not sure that either physical or philosophical segregation is a long-term answer. Sunday Star Times.